So let's take a moment and look at soil life through a little bit of a different lens. You know, my mentor of over 30 years, one of the first things that I learned from him is that to study the natural vegetation around you, what they call native vegetation. A lot of times that's a native prairie, which we don't see a lot of anymore. We see it in the old westerns with the wagon trains and stuff. That's actually native prairie where they're filming that. But what we do see today is climate zones. And there's a lot of that in traditional gardening. They talk about different climate zones. If you tip over a bag of seed, they'll show you what zone it's for. And that's an easy reference. Now, not discounting that, but once you learn how to study the natural vegetation that grows where you want to raise vegetables, where you want to do vegetable gardening, that's when you'll start to gain knowledge and wisdom about how to grow soil. Okay, so you say grow soil, Steve. How do you grow soil? Well, first, I'm going to tell you a little story, and then I made a promise to you on the last email. For those of you that are new here or haven't seen me, my name's Steve Sedera. I'm the founder of Tabletop Farmer, and I do have a little story for you. So, you know, I moved here, and the accountant that I had for both my business and personal, they retired. And so I had to find a new one, and that was quite a process. But we were sitting at her kitchen table. She works out of her house or out of her home. And we were sitting at her kitchen table, and she was asking, you know, we were talking back and forth. She was really interested in what I do and stuff. And so then I started telling her about how to study this native vegetation for whatever you want to grow, how beneficial it is, and how, you know, it's a skill, it's a learning curve, but you got to start somewhere. So we're talking, and I said, Debbie, I can tell by your grass that you have very good soil here. I said, over in that one little corner, maybe this is going on and that going, but as a general rule, you have very good soil that your lawn is in. And she looked at me and she said, yes, I do have very good soil. I noticed that or recognized that. It was 4 years ago. I've been here 4 years, and when I first got here, I was working in the soil and I realized how nice it was. Whoa, wait a minute here. Whoa, wait. She said working in the soil. Remember, I promised you in the last email that I was going to give you one key tip about building, maintaining soil life. Working it. We don't meddle with it. We don't touch it. We let's go back to that natural, native vegetation synopsis or picture. That doesn't work the soil. That lets it be. It lets nature take over and do its magic. And that's what we want to learn here. This being about soil life, a lot of things are talked about as that my soil runs out of nutrients before the crop is finished. Well, this is going on 8 weeks. 8 weeks actually yesterday. Today, filming this is the 31st of July of 2022. This is our regenerative project in our river sand project, but nonetheless, 8 weeks. And you know, it got hailed here pretty hard here a couple weeks ago. It looked pretty sick, but it's got the nutrients to come back. Okay, let's go back to the plants. We talked about the soil running out of nutrients. The plants feed off the soil, but then what feeds the soil? The plants actually feed the soil back, is what happens, and it's a complete cycle. And that's a cycle that happens no matter where you're at. If you're in native vegetation, wherever you're at in the country, that cycle with growing plants, growing roots in the soil, just keeps replenishing the soil. So that's what we need. So last email I promised you another little story, and it was about my grandfather. Now, when he came to this country, he actually slid a plank underneath a rail car and rode out from Wisconsin out to western North Dakota, and that's where he got off. Why did he get off there? I've oftentimes wondered that. And, you know, I don't have the correct answer, but I have an idea. And where he left in Wisconsin, they wore the soil out. 3 weeks ago or so, I was over in central Minnesota towards the western side some, and I could see the way from being there 20 some years ago, how the soil has been depleted, how it's wearing out for them. I see the same exact thing happen. I can tell in their growing, in their vegetation. You know, I don't know what the soil, what the growing zone is, but I can see it in the vegetation as to what's going on. So I know what's going on with the soil. You know, and it's taken me some time to get there. But, you know, I could just imagine Grandpa, that's a long trip to ride underneath that rail car. And I don't know how many times the train stopped or whatever, it doesn't matter. But I can just imagine him riding along and underneath there, more than likely laying on his side, looking out at the countryside. And when he saw soil, he knew what to look for. And when he saw growing vegetation that looked attractive, that's where he got off. And he went into town, he put a pin in the ground or got his stake or whatever they had from the land office. He went out and got his 160 acres. And that 160 acres is within our family yet to this day. And I can remember going by it with my dad when I was pretty small farming, and him telling stories about this and that and the grasshoppers and everything they fought through those years. They went through some really tough times. But it's an interesting concept. Now, in the next email, so I gave you one tip today, and that's, you know, we have to stop, like Debbie, she's working in the soil. We have to stop meddling with it. We gotta quit meddling with it so that it can do its magic, so that it can work. And that's where the secret sauce is at in all this. That's the number one tip that I can give you today, is stop meddling with the soil of any disturbance whatsoever. And as we go on here, we'll learn how we can do certain things that you think tillage is taken care of. So with that, thanks for watching. You know, in the next email, we're going to talk about the next key thing that you can do. And also with Grandpa's story, I have another part to that story that goes to the south of there about 8 miles. See, there was a lot of, out west where I come from, there's a lot of homesteading that went on out there. A lot of people homesteaded out there. Lots of stories out there. You know, and as people are unfortunately dying and stuff, they're getting forgotten about. And I'm trying to get them down on paper or whatever so I can remember them and pass them on, because they're really cool stories. But nonetheless, you're not here for that. Stay tuned. Be on the lookout for my next email coming, and we're going to talk about another thing that you can do. It's very, very key in this whole process to growing accordingly to the vegetation that's around you, growing an abundant vegetable garden, the most abundant vegetable garden of your dreams. So thanks for watching.